guys, what is up? Welcome back. My name is Tez. Today's video is going to be 3 different looks inspired by Natasha Denona's pastel color story. If you never watched any of my color story inspired series before, this series is basically just encouraging you guys to use your own eyeshadows that's kind of similar to the shades instead of buying a whole different palette to save you some money. Hopefully you guys are excited to create. So if you are interested in today's 3 looks inspired by Natasha Denona's pastel color story, please don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and share with your friends. I would really appreciate that. Without further ado, let's jump right in. I want to take the pink. I'm using the bikini shade from the ColourPop Cabana Club. I'm taking this pink shade and I'm gonna mix a little white to make it more pastel-y, so it kind of looks a little more similar. For the base today, I just take a really pale concealer. I use the e.l.f. Hydrating Camo. This is probably the lightest that I have right now. I'm going to kind of place the pink on the center. So if you do want to follow along, you can take the pink in your Natasha Denona palette. I'm just putting it at the center and then I'm blending it upwards to the crease. And I'm gonna take that blue shade, the purpley blue. I'm gonna put like the correspondent name on the screen because I can't remember on top of my mind. And just put the blue using the same brush. I'm using a BH brush, like a little fluffy brush. I'm kind of just like taking that and buff that on the outer V too. On the outer V. I'm gonna just wanna buff that on the outer V and okay, I am taking the BH base booster, a little sticky, kind of like a glitter primer. I'm just tapping a little bit of that base booster on the front, and I'm going into lime shade, whatever lime that you guys have. I'm packing that on. I'm not so sure if this is categorized as pastel, but this is the shade from the ColourPop singles called Keep Scrolling. A lot of times I find that you can just like pack on the color with your finger, right? So you get the maximum impact, and then what you do is you kind of soften the edges, right? Because a lot of the time with the pastel color, it's very light. So if you want a maximum pigmentation, use your finger, press, and soften the edges like that. Especially working with pastels, I find that like it works wonders throughout the years. I am going to take the pastel pink from the Hela palette. I am just gonna pack it on. And kind of like soften the edges just using my finger. Alright, I'm just gonna add a little bit of the liner to kind of define the eyes a little. I'm using ColourPop Bass O. I'm taking like a little angle brush to kind of smudge the line out. Alright, I'm gonna put on some lash. I'll be right back. Okay guys, I'm back with some lash, and I put some lower lash mascara, Wet n Wild Make It Slim, and put some ColourPop Cream Gel Liner Extra Frosting. This is the finished look. The colorways is not gonna be the same. Mine is probably not as pastel-y, but another trick is you can put some white eyeshadow over, right? And you can just like blend the edges with some white eyeshadow. so it's a lot softer and a lot more like pastel looking. Just a little trick, if you don't have this palette, or if you're like looking for some pastel looks to do, this is a really good trick to kind of soften the edges with some white. So yeah, this is the finished result. Really hope that you guys like this look. Let's move on to the next. So like another thing like I really like to do when I look at a palette or a color story is like I told you guys before, I'm gonna link the video where I create with you guys. I don't know if you have seen the video. If you have not, I'm gonna link you to it. Is I like to swatch things out, you know, and then kind of like imagine the placement. So that's how I like to work with the colors. So I'm like very drawn to the color combination that's on my hand. So I think I'm gonna do that approach. I'm not 100% sure it's gonna work, but let's go ahead and try. So there is like a plummy kind of a purple shade. What I saw the review, they say it's very light, so I will dip it into some white as well. So I think I'm gonna just like go. I kind of want to just like have fun and maybe create something like a little different. I mean, the first look is definitely very wearable, and I also feel like if you're like a little overwhelmed by the color, you can definitely, you know, work with them in like sections, meaning like if you have the reds, the pink and the reds definitely goes, and the greens and the blues, they definitely go, you know, like session it up, and the yellow and the oranges and the pinks, you know, like that kind of give you a little bit of a guidance on like how to use pastels and stuff. I'm going to maybe like, I'm gonna put a little white over it. I kind of want to do the oranges and kind of, I don't know, I'm just like freestyling at this point. And I'm putting that on the lid, mixing some white into it. Going to that blue shade, I'm gonna list like corresponding shades just on the screen, so maybe if you do have the palette you can follow along. I'm gonna place this kind of here. I think I'm gonna dip into the pink, just a little bit, because I do want to kind of soften the edges a little. Pink that I am using is from the Hela palette, because there's a pastel pink in there. I'm just going to use that, just, you know, soften the edge a little bit. I know in the palette it's not as like pigmented, but the fun part is you can always make it more vibrant by dipping into a different palette. Next, I'm dipping into the yellow. I'm packing a little bit of the yellow in here. The yellow shimmer. The trick is you can always layer. You can dip into the lime green first, and then you pack on the yellow shimmer. That's my trick. I just want to... Alright, I am gonna bring the line, the bright yellow on the brow bone as well. Just to soften everything, I'm going to the pastel pink. Kind of just like buff everything, kind of soften the edges, and kind of just like a layover of the pink. Open everything again. Right in the brow bone. Alright, so I just put on some lash, and for the inner rim, I use the shade Peach Fuzz from ColourPop. And I'm now going to dip into a little bit of that like pink shimmer. And I'm gonna place it right here, just in the center. Just in the very beginning, because there is a little gap here. Okay good guys, this is the finished second look. I absolutely love how this look turned out, so I had to do this eye for my reels as well. Love this look. I think it's so fun, colorful, but editorial at the same time. You don't have to use her palette, but if you do have her palette, I'm 100% positive you can create something very similar. So yeah, I really hope that you guys like the second look, and let's move on to the third look. Go ahead and dig into the third look. I do want to do something different with this look as well. Let's do a little more editorial feel to it. I'm gonna go in with the blue shade. Just to use that, I know to deepen the V first. Okay, dip into some white to mix this with the white to make it like actually very close to the pastel kind of a shade. Just make it a little closer to the pastels. I've heard actually kind of a mixed review. I haven't heard someone like people are like obsessed with this palette. So maybe making your own pastel probably is a pretty good idea if you don't want to spend $65 on a palette that you probably don't love. To kind of carve out the space right here as well. I'm gonna go into the What's Up Beauty R102 brush. Use the pale pink from the Hela palettes. I'm gonna essentially just give some shading here with the pink. Switch to a smaller like pencil brush. I'm going to add the pink here as well. Okay, I'm just gonna go back to Ariel 818 brush where I placed down the blue. I'm gonna use this to kind of smoke out the lower lash. I feel like out of the bunch, the blue is probably the most unique shade of pastel. So if that kind of interests you, I do want to do more looks with this shade because I absolutely love shades like this. Okay. Because I love shades like this a lot. Okay, now I'm gonna pack on some orange. Let's do the lime green. just gonna pack the lime green on the inner. How fun is that? And I heard the lime green is not actually lime green, it's like very yellow. Okay, I think it will be really fun if I try to top the pink here. That is so fun. For the inner rim, I'm still going to peach fuzz. Okay guys, this is the finished third look. Absolutely love how this look came out. So for the rest of my face, I'm going to leave it down in the description. So yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the comments if you guys like any of the looks that I created. I know they're a little more like editorial-esque. A lot of people are already doing very wearable looks, so I'm thinking like doing something different. And I hope you guys like that. Just some thoughts on the color story. I absolutely love the look of it. I love all the matte shade selection. The shimmer seems a little lackluster. I don't like the red metallic selection. I just didn't feel like it goes. I kind of wish there's some more like multi-chrome shades that's mixing in there, or some multi-chrome pastel. That would be so genius. Maybe she kind of missed the opportunity there. Instead of two re-promoted shades from her Tropic palette, why not do something new? I just kind of feel like, ugh. That kind of just made me also don't want to spend my money. Feel like after watching a lot of people's review, it kind of turned me off a little bit. Some people were saying there's not enough intensity, it's not as pigmented, and spending $65. Maybe it's better off for me to, you know, just mix and match and create my own, which I don't mind doing. If you don't have the budget, you don't want to spend $65, get a white eyeshadow. You can make any shades of pastel. Yeah, that's just some of my thoughts on the Natasha Denona's pastel color story. Comment down below and let me know your thoughts on the pastel color story from Natasha Denona. Let me just like show you guys some of my pastel palettes. I have the BH Lost in Los Angeles palette. I have a 3 looks, 1 palette with this palette right here. I do like this palette, but I just feel like the metallic shades in here I don't really care for. That's the only thing with the palette, but the matte pastel shades are very, very pretty. Easy to blend, easy to use. So if you are looking for some alternative, and See You Never palette has some really beautiful pastel-y type shades. So if you're looking for pastel shades with some depth, definitely enjoy this palette too, especially for spring, right? And I have the Aura and Owl palette. Here are some really pretty pastel shades. This is the shade that I use on my inner corner and brow bone. Very pigmented, very limey. Also the pastel palette, the Beauty Bay pastel. This is like around $8, I think. So if you guys are like looking for a pastel that's very affordable, do like their color selection. The only thing I would say is they're quite powdery, but the formula is definitely thinner. It takes a little more time to build. You have to really pack on the color and not blend too much. Other than that, I would really highly recommend the Made by Mitchell palette. I never really talk about this palette. This is such a beautiful like pastel-y shades. You got depth. If you think Natasha Denona's palette is lacking of depth, this is a great palette. There's so many pastel-y shades that are super beautiful. Really enjoy Made by Mitchell's matte formula. Such a beautiful matte eyeshadows. I love Mitchell's formula so much. Really feel like it's worth the investment, and you got so much product in here. You got 3 grams in eyeshadow. It's a lot of value for your money. If you're looking for a good pastel palette, highly recommend Made by Mitchell's Head in the Clouds palette. Let me know if you guys like any of the looks. If you guys create any of my looks, I will hope for you to tag me on YouTube or on Instagram. I'll always repost you guys. And thank you guys so much for watching. If you have not subscribed, I would really love for you to subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Instagram and TikTok. I love you guys. I'll talk to you later.